I could make $10,000 on one note deal where it would take me 3 originated loans to make the same amount.
I currently have 5 deals that I'm working on the table after 3.5 weeks of buying the program.
I will be making $2,000 on my first deal. I think that is fantastic.
It's going to be a win-win or a win-win-win or a win-win-win-win, depending on how many parties are involved. And I can't see a downside to it at all.
I would say that yes, you could make anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 a year with a good, steady pace.
On most transactions, depending on the size of the deal, I try to make between $5,000 to $6,000 a deal. Of course, you have the big ones in there, but $5,000 to $6,000 is about usually what you make.
And actually, you end up making $1,000 per lot, which out of 60 lots is going to be about $60,000 in my pocket within 30 days.
Yeah, you could make $100,000 in this thing in the first year, I believe.
I was steadily closing 1 deal a month while I was working a full-time position, probably 50 hours a week. And I was averaging 1 deal a month.
Hi, my name is John Stefanchik, and what you're about to see is a live seminar presentation I did to a group of people interested in making money. Now, if you're like that and you'd like to learn how to make money with a very interesting business opportunity, what I'd like for you to do is sit back, relax, get a pen and some paper, you're going to be copying down some notes, and enjoy the next hour or so that you're going to be viewing this very live special presentation. But please stay through till the end, because I got a very special offer for you once this live seminar is over. Thank you, Kelvin. Okay, I have a really interesting task today that I have to go through this and want to make sure you understand how to do this. Now, it sounds kind of hokey to say that you could buy real estate, you know, actually make money with real estate without actually buying it. But actually, we can do that. We will do that. We're going to talk about how to do that. And what I'd like for you to do is make sure, first of all, that you have some paper, a pen. I'm going to give you a lot of notes to take down today. I want you to copy down as much as you can. We've got a lot of things to cover, but I want you to recognize one thing right from the beginning, is whether you decide to use this technique or not, I'm going to try and give you a lot of different things that are going to have an impact on your investment future. Things like involving in real estate, things involving in general finance, so that if you pay attention, whether you decide to get involved in this program or not, it's totally up to you, but at least you'll have some good foundation for making some good financial decisions. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the topic of paper today. Now, paper is an interesting topic because it's very, very lucrative money-making topic. You'll make a lot of money with it. It's very, very easy to do. It's not very difficult, and it can give you what you want in terms of making money. So let's start with what exactly it will give you. When we talk about the topic of paper, now paper is the buying and selling of personally held mortgages and deeds of trust. Now, what I mean by that is, when you look at paper, you can look at paper from any one of 3 aspects, or all 3 aspects that paper can give you. Now, paper is the buying and selling, like I said, of personally held mortgages, but we can start in paper by understanding that what we can get primarily from paper is short-term. Short-term is cash. We can get cash from paper. In other words, you find a mortgage, you sell a mortgage, you make money. Okay, and I will show you how to do that, because I'm assuming that most of you came to this financial seminar today to learn how to make cash. I don't need to ask for a show of hands or anything. I know that you came here to learn how to make cash. Simply because today's a Saturday, it's a day off. Most of you could probably be home enjoying yourself or sleeping or something like that, but instead you came here because you recognized you would like to change your financial future. That's fine. What I want you to recognize is cash is very important in changing that future. You need to be able to get your hands on some cash. Now, we're going to start with how to do that. Then we're going to work our way into what's called reinvestment. Now, if there's short-term, medium-term, and long-term to everything, this is the medium term, the ability to reinvest the money you're making. Now, a lot of you will say, you know, once I make some money, then I'll learn how to reinvest the money. It's too late once you made money to learn how to reinvest the money. It's just too late then. The best thing to do is to learn it now so that when you do have some money, you can invest that money. Now, let me give you 2 parameters that you want any investment that you have to hit. It's got to hit on 2 parameters. Number 1, it's got to be safe. Any investment you involve yourself in should be safe. Number 2, it should be high yielding. Safe and high yielding. Very important. Now, let's talk about any traditional investment that you involve yourself in. Let's talk about something like the stock market. A lot of people put their money into the stock market. If you put your money into the stock market, would you feel that that was particularly safe or high yielding? Well, it's not safe. It could be high yielding only if you win. It's like going to the the gambling casinos. If you win, it's great. If you lose, it's not. So stocks is not a good investment if you want something safe and high yielding. Now, what about something like a municipal bond? Would you feel that a municipal bond, for example, would be particularly safe? Sure it is, right? Because it's secured by a highway or a bridge or something that's not going anywhere. And it is safe, it's insured. But 8% over the next 30 years, would that be particularly high yielding? No. So in other words, how do we find an investment that would fit both safe and high yielding? And the only way I know of, the only investment I know of that is like that is what's called paper. The reason why is because, number one, you're buying the asset at a discount. Whenever you buy an asset at a discount, your yield increases. And I'll show you how to do this. Number two is not only are you buying the asset at a discount, but that asset is secured by real estate. So if we can value the real estate properly, we will understand that the investment is particularly safe. So we're going to go through that, and we're going to make sure that you understand that. And I'm giving you an overview now as to what I'm going to talk about this morning. But first of all, we've got cash. Second of all, we've got the ability to put our money into something that makes money. Because you see, a lot of people focus in on just making money. And the best example of that, with focusing in on making money and not worrying about reinvesting, what happens is you get a lot of people that win the lottery. I don't know if you've read about people from the United States. They win the lottery. They win like $30, $40 million, and 3 years later, they're dead broke. And you say, how the heck did that happen? Well, it happened because they never knew what to do with the money in the first place. So they wind up blowing it, and then they're back working the same job trying to play the lottery again. The idea is the most important thing that we could do is take that money and put it into something that's making us money. Now, long term, the long term of what we're going to do is property. So there's two rules that I need to give you right from the beginning so that you understand real estate investing. And whether you decide to get involved in it or not, there are simple rules that you can remember. Rule number one. This is a very long sentence, so I'm going to repeat it twice. Rule number one is what's called the 1% rule. Very simple, very easy to use rule. Okay? Rule number one, 1% rule. Take 1% of the purchase price of the property you're buying. And that's what you should get monthly in rent to break even. All right, let me repeat that. Take 1% of the purchase price of the property you're buying, and that's what you should get monthly in rent to break even. Now let's use a simple example. Let's take, for example, that you're going to buy a $150,000 piece of real estate. Okay? $150,000. What's 1% of $150,000? $1,500. Now, what this rule says is you're buying a $150,000 piece of real estate, you need to get $1,500 in rent. Let's say at best the property rents out for $1,000. Let's say at best. Rents out for $1,000. Where's the difference? Where's that $500 coming from? Your pocket. Now, recognize this. You cannot make money in real estate by taking money out of your pocket every month in a negative cash flow. You can't do that. So the best thing that you could do is buy it at a better price. So you're going to say, well, how am I going to get a better price? What I'm going to tell you is something we're going to talk about a little later in the program, which is what's called delinquent paper. Just please write down those two words, delinquent paper. Now, delinquent paper is where you can get in on a piece of real estate at serious, serious discounts. Now, have you ever heard of foreclosures, how you can buy foreclosures and you buy them at steep discounts? This is where you get there before the foreclosure. So in other words, if you think foreclosure gives you a big discount, wait till you see what delinquent paper does. Now, in order to do this, in order to map this out today, what we're going to do is we're going to start by talking about cash because everyone in this room can take advantage of the technique that I'm going to show you. So we're going to start with cash and work into how to make cash work for us, how we're going to be able to produce that. Then we're going to talk about how to reinvest, how to take that money, put it back into something that's going to make you money. Very important for your financial security. Simply because the difference between being well off and wealthy is night and day. I mean, it's really a night and day difference because everybody thinks it's the same thing. When you're well off, you're paid by, let's say, a company, a nice six-figure salary, and you do very well. Like I meet a lot of executives when I'm flying around. They work for the TV industry or the movie industry, and they make a lot of money. They make six figures. And they're very well off, but they're not wealthy. Wealthy is where your money makes money, and you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to touch it. The money just makes money, just makes money. Last but not least, we'll talk about property. Through delinquent paper, how you can take back some properties, and how you can make money from property. All right? Now, before we get started into anything else, what I need to do is just tell you a small story, a quick story, about myself and how I got here today to be able to give you this talk. I don't mean how I flew up here. I mean how I actually got to this point in time in my life that I could talk about paper and why paper is important to me. okay? What happened to me was a number of years ago, I was working for a Fortune 100 company back in New York, and I was doing quite well. I was making $30,000 a year. I was on salary. I was making $30,000 a year for 40 hours of work per week, okay? So I go to my manager and I said, I'd like to make more money. And he says, if you'd like to make more money, what you need to do is work longer hours. Now, I don't know if you ever heard that answer before, but it's like, that doesn't really work for me because how's that going to work? You know, I working longer hours, am I going to make more money? He says, well, you're not going to make more money now. What it means is once you put in a good year, we'll give you a raise, and that raise will give you more money later. So I said, well, I'll work more now to get more later. I said, I don't think that really would work for me. I don't really like to hear that. I don't like to really involve myself in that. I'm thinking to myself, so the best thing that I can do is get out there and invest in something else. So I said to myself, what am I going to do? Now, I'm a kid from the South Bronx. I don't have an investment background. I don't have a lot of parents that have a lot of money. I don't have the ability to be able to just jump into something right away because I have no money and no experience. I said, what can I do? So at the time, along comes this book that says that I could buy property with no money down. And it was a very interesting book because as I'm reading the first few chapters, I realized I definitely qualify for this no money down program. Because you see, I had no money to put down. So it makes sense that I could do this, okay? So I'm reading the book and I recognize, you know, if you put together a couple of these creative techniques, you could actually make some money. So I said, this sounds good to me. I think I'll get into it and I'll try it. So at the time I was doing this, I was reading the book, going out there and I'm buying property. And I'm buying a whole lot of property. I mean, I'm actually buying a lot, and it's working. I'm buying a whole lot of property in a short period of time, and I've got all this property. I'm still working the full-time job, and it's working out very nicely. So as I'm doing this, I'm figuring, hey, this is pretty good. The only problem is, while I'm doing this, I have what's called a zero cash flow. Now, I don't know if a lot of you can relate to that. That's where the money comes in and the money goes out, and you're left with nothing at the end of the month. In other words, you spend all the money you make. Well, that's where I'm at, okay? I get into real estate investing to get on with my financial career, and I wind up with a brand new problem. This one's called negative cash flow. Have you ever heard of that one before? That's where you have more money going out than you have coming in. So I said to myself, how did I do this? Because you see, I started with no money and then effectively invested myself to less than no money. Anybody want to buy my book and tape package on how to do that? I didn't think so. What I'm saying is, it's important to recognize you can do something right or you can do something wrong. I was new at this and I was doing it wrong. So now, all of you have come here with a certain type of goal or idea or problem. You know, I want to make more money or I don't have enough time. Here was my problem at the time, so you understand why I'm telling the story. I had no money. Now I've got less than no money because I've got to come up with money I didn't have in the first place. I've got all this property and a full-time job. I've got some problems. I need to make some cash. So if you can all understand what I'm trying to say, I need to get my hands on some cash, all right? So I'm highly motivated. Now, I don't know how highly motivated you are. I hope you are. But I needed to change my financial life. So what happened was, along came this technique. I just heard about it. I didn't go to a seminar. I wasn't fortunate enough to attend a seminar where somebody says, here's how to do it. I just heard that you could buy a mortgage at one price, resell it at a higher price, according to what's called the time value of money. Now, I had no idea what that meant, but I thought to myself, for some reason, I think I can do this. I don't know why, but I said, I think I can do this for some reason. In thinking that, I said, okay, let me try and investigate this, and I started to investigate what this meant. Now, just for a show of hands, let me ask you a question. How many of you right now have ever heard of the topic or heard of the investment idea of the buying and selling of paper? Let me see a show of hands. Oh, quite a few of you. Oh, excellent. Okay, great, great. Normally, I don't have that many people that have understood it or have heard about it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go into this technique, and I'm going to make sure that you understand it. Now, I'm going to dissect the technique out so that we can understand how paper is created, how paper is discounted, and how paper is sold, and more importantly, how you fit into this and how you're going to make money by utilizing this technique, okay? Now, because of this filming, we got kind of off to an odd start, and I want to kind of make it up to you. So before we do anything, I just want to, in this technique, I just want you to kind of reintroduce myself to you. My name is John Stefanchik. Now, the problem, I just need to address this right at the beginning, get it out of the way. The problem with a name like Stefanchik is it's got 10 letters, and you could really mess it up. If you're not pronouncing it properly, you're not going to spell it properly. So by way of mnemonic, I'd like to show you a way of helping you to remember how to pronounce the name and spell the name properly. See, this is the proper spelling, S-T-E-F-A-N-C-H-I-K. So whenever I say Stefanchik, I don't always get it back the way I'm saying it. so people try and, you know, mispronounce it and spell it. So I'm going to give you a variation on a theme to how I get this back, so maybe it'll help you remember how to spell it properly. See, in other words, I say John Stefanchik as clearly as I can, and I get back things like John Stefan Brick, which is okay. It's close, but it's not right on. It'll get the letter there, so it's not so bad. Same thing with John Stefan Chew. It'll get the letter there. It's okay. Maybe I sneezed when I was pronouncing my name. I don't know. But John Stepan Fetchit, to me, it's just not there. I don't know what I did to really kind of mispronounce it there, but it's just not there. And I think this one is the worst one I ever got. This happened to me a number of times, and it's true. Now, if you're having a problem inserting the vowel into this word, it's going to be a long morning here. All right, anyway, my name is John Stefanchik, and I am from New York. I'm going to go through this technique right now, and we're going to get into the technique, make sure you understand it. But please, more importantly, let's think about how you fit into this technique and how you're going to make money from this technique. That's the most important part of maximizing our time here. All right, let's go through this example right now. Now, this is an example of two people that are entering into an agreement. We've got Mary and we've got Bill. Now, Mary is going to sell a piece of real estate. Bill is going to buy that piece of real estate from Mary. Now, let's just say the purchase price is $130,000. $50,000 cash down is what Bill is going to put down. He's going to put it down as a down payment. That leaves $80,000 that basically Bill has got to find somewhere in order to buy this piece of real estate. And let's just assume Mary's property is free and clear. Now, it doesn't have to be free and clear. I'm just saying it's free and clear just to make the numbers nice and simple. Okay? Now, what type of real estate is she selling? She could be selling a single-family home. She could be selling an apartment building, a piece of land. It doesn't matter just so long as it's real estate. Okay? Just so long as it's real estate, and that she's selling for $130,000, $50,000 cash down. Now, Bill decides he wants to borrow the money. Where does he normally go to get that money? The bank, right? He normally walks into the bank. He says to the banker, Mr. Banker, I'd like to borrow $80,000. I'm buying a $130,000 piece of real estate. The banker says, okay, fine, let me see the contract. Banker looks at the contract, explains a couple of things to him, and then explains the terms and conditions of borrowing the money. Let's say the banker says that if you want to borrow the $80,000 and you qualify, we will lend it to you, but you'll be paying us back at the rate of $775 per month on a 30-year schedule. Okay? In other words, you'll be paying us back in $775 monthly installments every month for the next 30 years, which is 360 monthly installments. Okay? $775. Bill says, okay, fine. Just let me know when I qualify. What do I have to do? And he says, give me a net worth statement, tax returns, et cetera, et cetera. Now, it takes about 5 or 6 weeks for the bank to qualify Bill. The bank actually qualifies Bill. After 5 or 6 weeks, they call him up. They say, listen, you're qualified. We're going to lend you the money. Let's have a closing. Now, when the bank decides to have a closing, what that means is we're now going to go to the closing table and money's going to be transacted. So there's basically 3 parties that are showing up at this closing. We've got Mary, Bill, and the bank representative. Now, how much cash is Mary going to walk out with at the end of that transaction? $130,000. Why? Because Bill is going to give her $50,000 cash down. What else happens is the bank gives her an $80,000 check. That's hers. She takes it, she leaves. Now, the bank came in with an $80,000 check. What is the bank going to leave with? A mortgage, right? The bank's got to leave with some sort of an agreement that says, you owe us money. Now, the mortgage is like a contract. It spells out the terms and conditions of borrowing the money. What happens if the payment is late? What the collateral is? What happens if you don't pay? How we can foreclose, etc. Bill signs that mortgage. Now, when he signs that mortgage, he signs on a 30-year obligation. Everybody's happy, everybody leaves. Deal is done. But let me ask you a question. Could it happen this way? Could it happen that instead of Bill going to the bank, could Bill go to Mary and say, Mary, would you like to hold the mortgage? Could that happen? Now, let me ask you a question. Why would it possibly be a better situation for Bill to go to Mary rather than to go to the bank? No qualifying, right? Right off the bat. How about he pays less? He pays no points and fees and appraisals and all that. There's no rejection. I mean, Mary's not going to say after 5 weeks, sorry, you don't qualify. The committee turns you down. It's just her. Quicker closing. It can happen in a week instead of in 5 or 6 or 8 weeks. So there's lots of reasons on Bill's side, but why would there possibly be reasons on Mary's side? Well, why would she want a qualified bill? Why would she want to hold a mortgage? She gets income over time, right? She gets money over time. What else? Well, she holds this mortgage on the property, and what happens if he doesn't pay? Can she get the property back? Sure she can. What else? How about in a market like this where properties are not selling pretty quickly, could it be that she can get the deal done, that she holds the mortgage instead of going to the bank? How about her tax situation? Could a tax situation dictate hold the money over time instead of getting it now? Could that happen? In other words, there's all sorts of reasons why on both sides, but let's say both sides are equally excited about doing this, okay? Let's just say both sides say, you know, this is a pretty good situation, let's do it. Now, what happens now is we only have 2 people involved in the closing now. We've only got Mary and Bill. That's it. There's no bank involved. Bill starts to make out checks to her every month, starts to make out checks, cutting checks to her. She now gets the money, she's cashing them. Let's assume 1 year goes by. 1 year goes by since the closing. She's received 12 checks. Everything's fine. Bill's making the payments. Everything's right on time. The only thing is now her financial picture changes. How does it change? It changes for the better. She now gets into a situation where she can invest in some stocks that are going to double in value. Or she can get into a new business venture. Or she can get into some entrepreneurial startup company. I don't know, whatever it is. Or she needs to take a trip around the world. Whatever it is, she needs a lump sum of cash. If she needs a lump sum of cash, what can she do? Sell the mortgage, okay? Now, what exactly would she be selling? Paper. But what does the paper represent? Money over time. It represents money over time. She's basically selling money that's coming to her over time. But she's selling that for cash today. So what happens is, she looks in the paper, and she sees this ad by this guy named David. Now, David's running an ad that says, I pay cash for mortgages. Mary sees that ad in the paper. It says, I pay cash for mortgages, sees his telephone number. Mary calls David up. She says, David, I understand you pay cash for mortgages. David says, yes, I do. Explain about your deal. She says, well, let me explain what I've got. About a year ago, a guy named Bill decided to buy my property from me. He's been paying me monthly, etc. She goes through all of what we just discussed. She also says that at the closing, they gave her an amortization schedule, which was 30 years long, and it described all the payments that were made to her and the principal and interest amounts she was getting. Okay, fine. She goes through some stuff, and then she says, by the way, she says, the remaining balance on my mortgage right now, because 1 year has gone by, the remaining balance is $79,600. And David says, okay, fine, and he copies it down. Mary says, now, since you pay cash for mortgages, David, when could I come by and pick up my $79,600? Is there any problem with that? Yes. Okay, now, let me ask you a question. Whether you have the money or whether you don't, why would you not pay $79,600 for this asset? Now, you'll make money. That's not the reason. Time's a very good reason. But really, well, there's always a risk involved in everything, but why would you not do it? There's one reason, which is called time value of money. Now, please, this is very important that you pay attention to this. The time value of money is simply this, and it'll change your life if you understand the time value of money. Time value of money is this. When you pay cash today to receive cash tomorrow, you have to get a discount because you have to wait. Time erodes money. The longer it takes for you to get your money back, the less you pay today. The shorter the period of time it takes for you to get your money back, the more you pay today, but you always have to discount the value because time erodes money and cash today is worth more than cash tomorrow. Now, the simplest example I can give you about the time value of money is this one. Every time a baby is born, somebody runs down to the bank and buys a what? A savings bond, right? It matures in 20 years to pay $100. What would you pay for it today? $40, $50, something like that? In other words, would you pay $100 today to receive $100 20 years from now? Of course not. That's the time value of money. You pay less today to receive more tomorrow because of the fact that time erodes money. Cash today is worth more than cash tomorrow. So, in this particular example, David has got to offer her something lower than $79,600. Now, you know how when you go to sell a car and you got that little book and you open it up and you look at the make and the model and the years and it tells you roughly what the car is worth? There is no book for this. There is no calculator, there is no guide, there is no exact number. There's no legal amount that David has got to offer Mary. It's a completely negotiable situation. David offers Mary whatever the two of them agree upon. So in this particular deal, David says to Mary, Mary, let me give you the best price I possibly can right now. Let me offer you $50,000 in cash. Mary says, what? You out of your mind? $50,000 in cash? He says, wait 1 second, Mary. Hold on, let me explain something to you. When I pay you $50,000 in cash today, and you've got your money, and you're out doing whatever it is you want to do, how much money do I receive next month? How much? $775. And the next month, $775. And the next month, and the next month. Mary says, yeah, but you're getting $775. That's a lot of money. And he says, Mary, wait a second. Let me ask you a question. How much did it cost for you to go to the movies 10 years ago? Mary says, I don't know, $1? Well, how much does it cost to go to the movies today? $8. Ooh. So it's costing $7 more to do the same exact activity 10 years later. Are you telling me movies have gotten that much better, that we should pay that much more to see them? Or are you telling me the dollar buys less? You see, this is important to understand. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, didn't the dollar buy less? Well, how about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Isn't the dollar going to buy even less? The important part to understanding that is David, in this particular example, has got to offer her less to compensate for that differential. So David's explaining this to Mary, and Mary says, let's just say Mary says, fine, I'll take it. I'll do it. Great. I want to take the money. Fine. Let's say she says that. She takes the money, $50,000. Okay, fine. Isn't Mary being taken advantage of by David? Now, I want to just deal with this. First of all, who needs the cash? David or Mary? Mary needs the cash. Let's start with that. Now, number two, do we have to discount the mortgage? Yes, because it's time value of money. That has nothing to do with anybody. Number three, and this is what a lot of people overlook. They look at the difference between what the remaining balance is and what Mary's getting. But think about this. This is very important for you to consider. If Mary took that money, let's just say she gets $50,000 from David. She takes the 50, and her and her husband buy the house that's across the street. They fix it up, and they sell it within a year for twice what they paid for it. Would that be a bad decision for Mary? No. So what basically determines whether this is good or bad is what Mary is going to be doing with the money. And we don't know what Mary's going to be doing with the money. So it really becomes an irrelevant fact. Okay, I just want to deal with that up front. Now, has David bought anything yet? No, he simply made an offer that he will pay $50,000 for this deal. Now, he then says, thank you very much, Mary, for the information. He hangs up the phone. All right? He's not bought anything yet. He is now going to make another phone call. He makes a phone call to a guy named John. Now, who is John? John is a paper buyer. John buys this type of paper, personally held paper, all over Canada. John is the guy that wants to cash in on this deal. Mary wants to cash out. John wants to cash in. David says to John, John, I've got 29 years of $775 a month. What would you pay for that? John's going to consider the collateral, bill, a number of different things. John says, sounds like a good deal. I'll give you $60,000 for the deal. What just happened to David? He made $10,000 for what? Phone call, one incoming, one outgoing. What I'm saying to you is, right here, this position that I'm asking you to consider, every one of you in this room, I'm asking you to consider, is the most lucrative position you could possibly be in. Why? Because here's what you're looking at. You're looking at how to make money from real estate without actually owning it. There's no ownership here. Does David own anything? No? Now hold on, I'm going to get through this. I want you to make sure you understand at least the beginning. I'm going to go step by step here. First of all, I want you to recognize David is in the middle. David's in a position whereby Mary wants to cash out, John wants to cash in. David is collecting the differential. David is each and every one of you in this room. So I want you to at least think of yourself as David, at least while we go through this. Now, that means that you need a Mary and a John in order to make this work. Now, one thing I want to get out of the way right at the beginning is you do not need the money to do this. Because when I first did this, because this is what saved me from the depths of negative cash flow, is I didn't have to come up with the money because I didn't have the $50,000. So if I said to you folks, all you have to do is come up with the 50, pay that to Mary, then turn around and sell it to John, a lot of you would say, well, that's a nice technique, but I can't use it. I don't have the $50,000. I didn't have the $50,000 when I started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you how to do this. Now let's start step by step, okay? The first step to doing this is what? Finding John or finding Mary? Finding Mary. Because you see, you need somebody that wants to cash out. Now I'm going to show you how to find Mary, then I'm going to show you how to find John. And it's totally up to you if you decide you want to do this. But I am telling you, this is a great position to be in. David, why? He is paid totally 100% in cash. He does not have to buy the real estate. He does not have to buy the mortgage. All he has to do is find the mortgage. Now, when I first started this technique, and I thought to myself, you know, I'd like to do this. I said to myself, how am I going to do this? I mean, how could I possibly do this? Now, I'm back a few years ago. I got a negative cash flow. I need to get cash. I need to get my hands on cash. I said to myself, how could I possibly put this deal together? What could I do? So I'm searching around, and I'm saying to myself, the best thing I need is to find Mary. Where would you go to find Mary? This is what I'm asking myself. I'm now asking you. Where would you go to find Mary? Now, you don't want to go to a bank because banks hold their own mortgages. Where you could advertise in the paper, right? You can advertise in the paper. But does everybody read the paper? This morning when I called down for my breakfast, they asked me if I wanted 2 different types of papers. So in other words, maybe only some people would see you. Maybe everybody else or somebody else that wants to sell a mortgage wouldn't. Where would you go? And advertising's okay, but where would you go to find every single mortgage? And I'll give you a hint. It's a block away. The registry office, it's right up the block if you don't know where it is. Do you realize that in that building, right up the block, is public information? The public recordation system is whereby people, banks, trust companies, it doesn't matter who it is, anyone lending money and holding a mortgage can record that mortgage publicly for anyone to be able to go in and read. Any one of us can go in there on Monday and read this and see who's holding a mortgage. I could go look up his mortgage. He can go look up her mortgage. Everybody can look up everybody else's mortgage. That's the way the system is. It's a public recordation system. So let me tell you what I did. You just apply it to right here. Same exact thing. What happens to me is I recognize that I could go down to the county recorder's office. I walk in there and I spend an entire day kind of searching around for where I can find an individual that's holding a mortgage. In other words, I'm looking for Mary. I'm looking for her name and her address, which you will find on the copy of the mortgage. So I look this up, and I find Mary's name and address. Not only Mary's name, I find a few hundred Mary's names. A couple of hundred Mary's names at the end of a day. I copy them all down. Now I have, at the end of a day, this is a number of years ago, I have at the end of the day, over 200 names and addresses of people receiving payments on mortgages that I'm now going home with. I'm now taking these names home. I now go home with all these names, and I now need to let these people know that I want to buy the mortgage. What could I do? I could call them up on the phone and say, listen, I've got your name. I understand you hold a mortgage. Would you like to convert it to cash? I could do that. What else could I do? Write them a letter. Now, I worked a full-time job, so I thought writing a letter was a little more time-efficient and cost-effective for me to do. So what I did was I wrote them a letter. Now, let me read you the letter that I wrote them, because what I want you to know about this letter, it's a very simple, straightforward letter. What this letter says is it basically says, I'm interested in purchasing your mortgage, and it's up to you to get back to me. Let me explain how this goes. Dear mortgagee, it's come to our attention from public record that you are currently receiving payments from a mortgage. The reason why I started with that sentence is because most people ask, how did you get my name? Because a lot of people don't know this is public information. How would you like a lump sum of cash now instead of having to wait for those periodic payments? Okay? I go on to say the amount of cash you can receive is determined by the size, length, and terms of the mortgage. And that's how we determine the price. If you're interested in obtaining more information with no obligation, please fill out the enclosed card and return it to us. Now, what I did was I made up a response card. And on this response card, I asked them to fill out the information, fold it in half, put a staple in the bottom, a stamp on the corner, and send it back to me if they're interested in a free quote. Okay? Now, have you ever done something that you've never done before and it worked? You know what I mean? Like anything at all. Fix the boat, fix the car, and it works. You feel real good about that. Well, what happened to me was I've got over 200 letters and cards that I need to send out. I send them out. This is a number of years ago. I send them out. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I figure this could work. I send them out, and one day a card comes back in the mail. And I looked at this and I said, hey, look at this. A card came back. This is great. So I called the person up. I made them an offer. They said, thank you very much, but no. Next day I come home from work, there's a card there, another card there. I said, great, I'm on a roll now. Called them up, I said, yes, I'd like to make you an offer on this mortgage, this particular amount. They said, thank you very much, but no. So now it's 2 down. I come home the next night, no card there. The next night, no card, next night, no card, next night, no card. Do you know what it's like to spend an entire day at the office just wondering what's at home in the mailbox when you come home? It's not a great way to live your life, but every day I'm coming home thinking there's going to be something there, and every day there's nothing there. So I keep coming home, nothing there, coming home, nothing there. So I'm starting to doubt that the technique worked. Maybe a couple of fluke people just sent in a card, and I said, well, maybe it doesn't work. One day I come home, there's a card there. Now, the card was from Yonkers, New York. Now, I don't know if you ever heard of Yonkers, New York. It's down right out of New York City. It's a suburb there. And it just happened to be that I remembered it because this is the card that hit. I got the card in front of me. I get on the phone. I said, yes, I'd like to offer you $36,000 for the mortgage. And there's a pause, and I hear, okay. So I said, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear what you were saying. There was a machine on the background. What was that you said? He said, well, that's okay, but can you do any better? Now I'm starting to sweat. Now the sweat's coming down my collar. I don't know what to do. What should I do? Go up, stay my price? I'm really nervous. I don't want to lose the guy. So I said, well, to tell you the truth, that's about the best that I could offer right there is $36,000. That's it. And he paused again, and he said, all right. And he asked me a very interesting question. He said, all right, how long is it going to take for us to close? And I thought to myself, that's a damn good question. I have no idea how long it's going to take to close. I've never done one of these things before. I don't know. I'm new at this. But I can't tell him that. So I said, well, I'm sure it'll take 2-3 weeks at the most. So he said, okay, what paperwork do you need? I don't know. I've never done this, so I can't say, I don't know, send over whatever you have. I just said, well, and just thinking quickly on my feet, I said, send a copy of the notes, send a copy of the mortgage over to this particular address. He says, do you need any other paperwork? I said, of course I do. But I'd like to take you through this step by step. Meaning as soon as I find out, he's the first guy I'm going to call. That's for sure. So he says to me, okay, fine, what's your address? I give him my address. He copies it down. I said, thank you very much. You're going to send the paperwork right away? Yes, thank you very much. Okay, great. I hang up the phone. Folks, I'm telling you, I was this high off the ground. I was so jazzed. I was so excited. I was beside myself. This was amazing. I couldn't believe I had done this. I couldn't believe, not knowing what I was doing, just kind of playing around here, hoping this was going to work. I actually did it. I was so excited. I was so jazzed. I felt so good for a good solid 5 minutes. And as I was coming down off my elation, I realized something's missing here. I open up my checkbook, and sure enough, I'm $36,000 short that week. In other words, I needed John. In more ways than one, if you can understand how excited I was. I needed a John that was going to cash me out. So, what I'd like to do right now is ask you to copy this down. I'm going to give you a real, live buyer of paper, a John. Here we go, right here. But what I want you to recognize is we are here to buy paper. This is a business opportunity. Now, how does this affect you? What does this actually say in terms of how you're going to make money? All right, let's go through this so you recognize where the opportunity is. All right, here we go. Now, if I'm John and you're David, are you not halfway there? Whew. All right. Maybe you were shocked. Let's talk about this. Let's roll up our sleeves here and get to understanding what's going on. If I'm John, look at John. I'm John. You're David. Are you not halfway there? Yeah, because why? Now you already have a buyer, and we're going to go through the mechanics of this, but now you already have a buyer. All you need to do is find the paper, right? In other words, here is John right here, ready to buy the paper. If it qualifies, and we'll go through that. If it qualifies, you've got John here. Now you're David. That means that basically you have to do what? Find the paper. Now you're saying, well, how am I supposed to find the paper? Well, can you run an ad in the paper? Can you run an ad in the newspaper? Is that difficult to do? Or do you need an advanced degree to run in the paper? No, you can run an ad in the paper. How about, can you call people on the phone that you find at the registry office? Can you send them a letter? Can you knock on a door? Can you talk to people? Let me give you an example of how, when you start to say to yourself, I want to find paper because I can make money, how you can make money. But before I do that, I need to ask you a fundamental question. If I'm John and you're David, and all you have to do is find the paper, here's the first fundamental question I have for you. Okay, very fundamental question. If you knew you could make money from simply telling people you buy paper, would you tell them you buy paper? It's about 5 people right there. About 5 said yes. It was a 1-hour flight. I'm not really sure. Let me make sure we do this again. Let me try this one more time, okay? Now, this is the room that wants to make money, right? We're not in the charitable deductions room, right? Okay. If you knew you could make money by simply telling people you buy paper, would you tell them you buy paper? Yes. That's what I thought. I'm sorry, it was my inability to communicate this, okay? What I mean is that if you knew there was somebody there to buy it, if it fit the parameters, if you knew what you were doing, you know, you had enough education, and you knew what you wanted to accomplish, you would certainly tell people you buy paper. Now, what I mean by telling people you buy paper is simply running an ad, sending a letter, calling people up on the phone, or saying, you know, I buy paper to anybody you meet. Now, let me give you an example of that. There's a student of mine, her name is Gail. She lives in Seattle. Now, what Gail does is she's you ever heard of a bail bondsman? Yes. Well, she's a bail bonds person. Okay, she does bail bonds, all right? And what she does is somebody needs a bond, you know, for whatever they've done, and they come in and they get the bond from her and they put the collateral up and everything else. So in comes this woman, young girl. She comes in and she says, I need a bond from my boyfriend down in L.A., and, you know, I need to get a bond. So she says, all right, what's your collateral? Collateral is very important in getting a bond. What's your security? So she says, well, I really don't have any. I don't have a house. I don't have a car. We've kind of been traveling around here and there. You know, I don't have anything. So Gail says, you don't have anything at all? Now, Gail understands paper. She's looking for paper. So she says, you don't have anything? So the woman says, the young girl says, well, I sold my house a couple of years ago, and I held a mortgage, and it's paying me $212.15 a month, but that's not collateral, is it? And Gail says, yes, it is. That's collateral. We could use that mortgage as security for the bond. We will give you the bond, but then as soon as you're done with this bond and we're done with the paperwork, did you know you could sell that mortgage? Young girl says, no, I didn't know. You mean that's worth cash today? Yes, it is. Gail made over $6,000 on that particular deal, just by asking the question, just by making the person aware of the fact that they could make money this way. All I'm saying to you is there's thousands of people out there that have no idea that they could sell their mortgage. Okay, absolutely no idea. What you need to do is let them know that you are the person to contact. You're going to say, yeah, but look at all these people in this room. You mean to tell me we're all going to tell people? Well, first of all, not all of you are going to do this, because maybe you want to go off in a different direction or do something else. That's fine. But of the people, of you that want to do this, you realize there's thousands and thousands and thousands of mortgages out there, and just a few of you. If you only hit on a small percentage of those mortgages, you could be very, very well off. So in other words, what you're doing is basically playing the numbers. There's a lot of people out there, and there's you. And you are trying to let them know that you buy paper. Now, this sounds pretty easy, right? Doesn't it? It sounds pretty easy. It's like, hey, you mean to tell me all I got to do is tell people I buy paper? I can do that. I've been telling people all sorts of things about myself for years. You know, in other words, you can just say anything you want. But, of course, you need to have the information and backup and everything else. But let's just start with, I buy paper. It sounds pretty easy. Now, I need to get this question out of the way right away, because I know it's on your mind. If it sounds that easy, why isn't everybody doing it? Right? Isn't that a good question? Sounds that easy, why isn't everybody doing it? Because everybody could be rich there. All right, very important question. Let's talk about this. Every time I'm on a plane, and as a matter of fact, as soon as I'm done with this talk today, I'm getting right on a plane, I'm heading back to New York. As soon as I do that, I guarantee you, the person next to me, I'm just guaranteeing you, the person next to me is going to turn to me and say, even though it's a short flight, the person's going to turn to me and say, so what is it that you do? They always ask that on a flight. So what is it that you do? And I always turn back to them, and this is exactly what I say, because this is exactly what I do. I buy and sell personally held mortgages on the secondary market. And you always get this sort of glazed look, this look that says, what? I mean, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea, because most people have no idea what this is. In other words, we've got a situation here, and that's exactly what I do. The reason why it's secondary market is because the primary market is when you lend money directly. When Mary lent the money, that was primary. When we buy this mortgage, it's on what's called the aftermarket, the secondary market. The mortgage is already in place. Okay? So in other words, we've got a situation here where most people have no idea what this is. Try it tonight. Talk to people. Say, did you know you could sell mortgages? I didn't know that. Did you know you can hold mortgages, transact them? That most people don't know that. That's one of the main reasons why everybody's not doing it. Number two is, even if they've heard about this, even if you may have heard about this, the reason why people aren't transacting them is most people think they need the money to do this. I know a lot of you that raised your hand that said, yeah, I've heard about this technique. Probably none of you have done it because you always think as soon as you make the offer for $50,000, you've got to give them your own $50,000. And everybody gets caught up in that. But think about this. The money in your pocket, does it have your picture on it? No, right? If it does, it's funny baloney money. I mean, it's not the same. In other words, all of your money in your pocket, if you have any, is the same as everybody else's, isn't it? So in other words, if Mary comes to closing, she's not going to come to closing and say, wait a second, hold on here. I want his money. I don't want his money. Why? Isn't his money the same as his money? In this particular deal, she's only receiving $50,000. That's it. She doesn't get any more, any less. It doesn't matter who shows up at the closing, because this is what the terms and conditions of the deal was. When you go to the bank to borrow the money, is there a guy in the back room that's making the money there with a wheel, and he's putting out the money? No, they borrow it from somewhere else. They get it from the depositors, etc. So in other words, the point in fact here is this. We've got a situation here where David is making the differential between what Mary is willing to accept and what John is willing to pay. Now, the important point to understanding that is, when you start to let people know you buy paper, and I hope all of you do this, because you'll make a lot of money doing this. If you let people know you buy paper and you start to tell people, send ads, copy, whatever you want to do, you let people know that you buy paper. Now the paper starts to come in. Okay? Paper starts to come in. Now somebody is going to say, this guy's going to call me up and say, I understand you buy paper, is that right? And I say, yes, I do. Explain your deal to me. What do you got? Now he's going to now explain to me what he's got. He's going to now give me numbers concerning his deal. What I need to do is turn the numbers that he's given me into what? A dollar amount I'm going to pay him. In order to do that, I've got to give you the questions you need to ask. The questions are very simple and straightforward. Here we go. The questions are on what's called the mortgage worksheet. Now, this mortgage worksheet details all of the questions you need to ask. It's very simple, very straightforward. You just follow this form. You start at the top third of the form and work your way down the side by asking the following questions. What type of property is it that you sold that you held a mortgage on? That's the first question you have to ask, because there are all different types of pieces of real estate. Single-family home, land, apartment buildings, whatever there is, there's all different types of real estate. Then you further go down this column by asking the following question. What's the sales price when you sold it? What's the down payment? How much of a down payment was made? Was there a first in front of the second? A lot of the mortgages you have up here are seconds. So what is the first? And what is the second? What is the date on the mortgage that you're selling? What's the amount? What's the term? You know, it's a 25-year, 30-year, 15-year. What is the term? What is the payment amount? Is there a balloon? What comes due at the end of that period of time, at that term? What is the interest rate that you charge? How many payments have gone by, and how many payments are remaining? Now, you have now asked all the pertinent questions you need to ask the person on the other side. Because the person is now saying, okay, you're now right here on the form. You've went across the top, down the side, you are now, that's it. You've asked all the pertinent questions you need to ask. The person says, okay, do you need any other questions, anything else answered? No, that's it. Well, what would you pay? Now, most of my students have a little bit of a problem just throwing out a number off the top of their head. They feel worried about that, and I understand that. So what my students have the ability to do is simply this. They say on the phone, yes, we do have all the pertinent information that we need. We'd like to discuss this with our partner. We'd like to discuss this with the partner. We'll call you right back. You hang up the phone. Nobody ever has a problem with that. You hang up the phone. Now, what you're going to then do is you're going to then call Charles. And Charles is going to take out the same form, work up a quote. He's going to work up a quote for you and going to tell you exactly what he will pay for this deal. He's going to say, we will pay such and such an amount of money, whatever that amount is. You then hang up the phone and call the other person back. Okay, you understand what's happening so far? All right, now, there's a visual involved in this. You ready? Watch the hands. Let's say, okay, let's say we offer you $55,000 for this deal. Let's say it's $55,000. When you hang up the phone and call the person back, would you offer them more or less? Less. Now, let me tell you why I do this visual. Some people get this all mixed up. One time a guy called us up. He said, what would you pay for this? We said $55,000. He said, thank you very much. He calls us back in a few minutes. He says, I got the guy locked in at $57,000. I said, looky here, Sparky, you need to take $2,000 out of your own pocket to put into this deal so the guy can sell the mortgage to me. He says, how am I supposed to make any money? I don't know. You got to go down. So if I said $55,000 to you, what would you say to the person on the other side? 50, 51, 48. But all I'm saying is the lower you go, the more you make. The higher you go, the less you make. Just don't go over. Everybody get this, okay? Now, what I'm trying to do is outline exactly how this happens because it's very simple, it's very straightforward. Now, let me tell you this because we got to get this out of the way. In terms of understanding how this deal works and what happens and everything else, let me tell you about the first deal I ever did. Because it's a very good question if you're saying to yourself, you know, John, if you had no money when you first started, how did you get the $36,000 to do that first deal? It's a very good question. Here's how I did it. I got the guy in Yonkers locked in at $36,000, okay? Locked in. He says he'll accept $36,000. Great. I don't have any money. I hang up the phone. I run an ad in the New York Times. New York Times Sunday section says, mortgage for sale, call John. That's all it says. Mortgage for sale, call John with my phone number. I got 39 phone calls, all right, in a 2-week period of time, 39 phone calls. Now, not all 39 people wanted that one particular mortgage. 9 of the 39 did, okay? I sold it to the highest bidder, which was $42,000, minus 36 is $6,000. Now, I had to pay what's called closing costs in order to put the deal together, but I made a little under $5,000 on my first deal. Now, closing costs are an important part. I got to bring that up right here. Closing costs are important. You may want to understand what this is. Very important. These are costs incurred in doing the deal. Costs incurred in doing the deal, what closing costs are. Now, let's talk about what closing costs are. In this particular deal here, we need to do a credit check on Bill. That's the first thing we need to do is a credit check on Bill, because Bill, we got to find out something about Bill's credit worthiness. Got to do that, because if Bill is 2 inches from bankruptcy, we don't want to do this deal. You wouldn't want to do it either. Number 2, we need to do an appraisal on the property. We need to find out what the current market value of this property is, because if it sold a year ago for $130, that doesn't mean it's worth $130 today. Number 3, we need to do a title search. We need to find out about the title, the encumbrances on the property. Are the taxes been paid? Is it really a second mortgage? We need to do that, and we need to insure the title. This is all done through the lawyers up here, so we got to pay this. Somebody's got to pay this. We also have to prepare all the documents, and we have to close the deal and prepare the assignments for the transfer from Mary to John. Now, this costs money. On a deal of this size, it would cost about $800 to close. $700, $800 to close. Now, a lot of you are saying, wow, I'm just starting and I don't have that type of money, and what? I don't want you to worry about money. Money is not the worry. That's not the worry in the paper business. Why is it not the worry? Because here's what I'm going to say to you. When you are dealing with my office and you are a student, and I'll explain what that means, but when you're a student, you're dealing with my office, and you call us up and you're doing a deal with us, we are going to pay all the closing costs that are incurred in the deal. All deals. Not just once or twice, all deals when you deal with our office, we pay all the closing costs. We treat our students really, really well. We always want to treat our students well because you may bring us not 1 deal, 2 deals, 5 deals. That's the whole point to doing this. So, understand we pay all the closing costs. The reason why we do this is there's 2 ways to make money in paper. The first way is you make a lot of money on just a few deals. The second way is you make a little money on a lot of deals. In other words, you do it in volume. When we do it in volume, like we buy his deal, her deal, his deal, his deal, his deal, her deal, we buy a lot of deals. When you buy a lot of deals at one time, you sort of minimize the cost, you absorb the cost in that, and you take a little bit off the top, so you make it up in volume. That's how we choose to do it. That's why we can pay the closing costs. Okay? Now, at this point in time, I want you to recognize something. I recognized pretty quickly after my first deal. Remember I told you I did my first deal, made a little under $6,000 on my first deal. I recognized, hey, that works. So what's the one thing I would want to do? Do it again, right? So I said, let me do it again. And I did it again, and I did it again. And then eventually I got to the point where I said, I can quit my job. I mean, I definitely can quit my job because, I mean, I've done this about 6 times now. I did it again and again and again. I'm now 6 times into it. I realized, hey, this really works. Now I can quit my job. Now, I know a lot of you fantasize about the day that you're going to quit your job. And how you're going to say it and what you're going to do, and you're going to look the guy in the eye and you're going to tell him. No, you don't want to do that. You do not want to do that. That's not what you want to do. You will never be remembered in a positive fashion if you do it that way. The way in which you want to do it, I felt like the way I did it had a little bit of finesse to it. What I did was I brought in an empty box one day. I put the box on the desk in the morning, took my stuff, put it in the box, and said, goodbye, see ya. And I just walked out. That was it. No fanfare, no parties, no goodbyes, no, just see ya. Thank you, it's been nice, goodbye. And I walked right through the door. And as I'm walking through the doors, one guy standing there saying to the other guy, he was talking to the other guy, and he said, poor guy, he doesn't even have another job. I laughed. I said, geez, I mean, think about that. I don't have another job. I started laughing, but then I thought, you know, it's pretty sad that some people think the only way to work and make money in life is to work for somebody else. So I said, gee, this is terrible. You know, I walked right through the door. And as I'm walking away, where do you think the first place I went to was? I went right back to the recording of these mortgages, because that's what I do now full time. I get up in the morning, I go to the registry office, and I look up these mortgages. That's all I do all day long. That's when I started to experience what's called positive frustration. Now, this is kind of an odd term, right? Positive frustration, it sounds kind of weird. It's what's known as an oxymoron. An oxymoron is a term that contradicts itself. Like, for example, jumbo shrimp, military intelligence, legal brief, Soviet fashion. You've heard of these? Okay. Anyway, the point is that I'm looking at this and I'm saying, what is it? What's matter here? Positive frustration is frustration you don't mind having. What I mean is, I can't copy down these names fast enough. I can't write these names. I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of names. I can't go fast enough. There is no way I could even become ambidextrous, copy down twice as many names. I can't do it. It still can't go fast enough. I can't get the names fast enough. So here's what I did. I decided to hire college students to go in there and search the names for me, because it's like library work. I paid them $5 an hour on flexible hours. They can go in and out when they want. And they can go in there and search the names for me. Now, they would search the names, just so you understand how the system worked. They would go in and they would search the names, because you don't need to know everything about the program to just get the names and addresses. So I'd send them in there. They get the names and addresses. Great thing to do with your kids. I sent my oldest girl there during the summer to the courthouse. She hated every minute of it, but it was great, because she got a lot of names. She got a lot of information. There's a lot of information out of there. She didn't really hate it that much, but it's kind of the type of work that's not glamorous, but it does make a lot of money. You're going in there, you're getting the information. So these college students were getting me the information. They were sending the information to a P.O. box in the Bronx. Okay? So they would send all the information into this little P.O. box where all these names were coming into from all these different areas. So all the names are going to the P.O. box. Now, at that time, it's just me, so I can't possibly get out all the names fast enough. You know, because I got thousands of names coming into this P.O. box now. So I said to myself, what am I going to do? Now I need to hire 2 full-time employees to get the names out fast enough. Now, I've never hired employees before, and I was kind of worried about hiring the right person, etc. So I decided to hire my parents. You have some good ideas and you have some bad ideas, and that just wasn't a good idea. Why? Because what happens when they don't want to work? What are you going to do? Kick them out in the street? Throw them out? I mean, but actually it did work out pretty well. Here's what happened. My mother would go down to the P.O. box, she'd get the names. She would take the names back to the house and she'd type the name onto a label. She'd get the name on the label, my father would put the label onto the envelope, put the letter of the response card in, seal it, stamp it, send it out. Now, when somebody out there wanted a quote, they would fill out the response card and send it back to me. I would get the response card, I'd make the quote. Do you see how this was all working? It was working very nicely. They were sending out the letters, I was processing the quotes, everybody's happy. I'm covering the entire New York area with all these students. I mean, this is just great. So one day I'm out on this long run, and I said, wait a second, there's something wrong here. What's wrong is, how am I ever going to buy a mortgage outside the area that I don't have college students? In other words, I've got this whole area of New York covered, but how could I ever buy a mortgage in Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, LA, California? I mean, how am I ever going to buy mortgages outside of this area? Because all I'm doing is covering this area, which worked out very well, but how can I do this? So that's when I got what's called a breakthrough idea. Now, what a breakthrough idea is an idea that makes you money. It's a good idea. You don't need many of them. You just need a few, and they're real good. And this is my breakthrough idea at the time. I thought to myself, wait a minute. Why don't I give a talk, a seminar, to a group of people interested in making money? Do you know anybody like that? Yeah, they're sitting in your chair, right? In other words, you want an opportunity to make money. I want to buy the mortgages. Maybe if I taught you how to do it, and you went out there and found the mortgage, maybe, just maybe, you'd sell me the mortgage. That way there, I buy the mortgage, you get the cash difference, everybody's happy. So I thought, this is a great idea. I said, I run back to my house, I call my partners up, I've got 2 partners, and I said, listen, what do you think of this idea? I could go around the country, I could give talks, I could meet these people, I could tell them about paper, and they could sell us paper, and we could buy paper all across the United States. And they said, great, sounds like a good idea. I think it's worth a try. Go ahead and try it. I said, this will be great. We'll get our name out nationwide and everything else. I think it'll be great. So now it's wintertime. At that time, it was the wintertime. I head down to the Southwest, you know, like New Mexico, Arizona, places like that. I head down there and I'm giving talks. Night after night after night, I go on this little tour and I'm giving these talks. And I'm giving talks to not a big group like this, but just a small group, you know, 25, 30 people that show up at a Holiday Inn on Thursday night. And I'm giving a little talk, and this exact same slide, I'm saying to them exactly what I told you, same exact thing. I'm saying, now, I'm John, you're David, and everybody's giving me what you gave me, which is what's called the seminar response. It's, uh-huh, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh, right. Now, I'm saying to them, you going to buy paper? And they're saying, uh-huh. You got my number? Uh-huh. You sure you're going to call me? Uh-huh. You know what you're doing? Uh-huh. I leave the room, nobody calls me. No, I mean nobody calls me. I'm going from seminar to seminar to seminar. I'm teaching all these people. They're all going, uh-huh. I leave. I go back to New York. Nobody's calling. So my partners now grab me, and they call me aside, and they say, you know, John, I don't want to offend you or anything, but are you giving these talks, or are you just sitting by the pool? Because nobody's calling up. And I said, I don't understand. They're going, uh-huh, but they must be going home and going, uh-uh. Now, the reason why, I'll tell you what happens. Picture the guy who goes to a seminar one night. How much time can I spend with these guys? In 2 hours or so. I'm giving them as much information as I can. I'm trying to make it interesting. I'm trying to make it understandable. They're copying down, just like you, copying down all the information you can. You got it all down there. Now the guy goes home. The next morning he wakes up. He's just got a page of information. He looks himself in the mirror, and he goes, what the hell was I supposed to do? Buy paper? What kind of paper? Wallpaper, toilet paper? I don't know what kind of paper. I mean, then he looks at it, some cryptic notes he's got in front of him. He says, what am I supposed to do? He has no idea, and he gives up on it. So in other words, I gave a talk for nothing. So I said to myself something, I mean, really quickly, I realized I got to give these people more information. In other words, what I said to myself is this information is fine, but these people, like yourself, need more information because information builds confidence. Knowledge is power. Information builds confidence. The more information you have, the more confident you feel. It's like when you first started, whatever it is you do, whatever job you had, when you first started it, you were not good at it. But the more you did it and the more you studied it, the better you became at it. That's exactly what happens with anything. So I needed to give these people more information. So what I decided to do was put together books and tapes to teach you how to do it. Now you're going to say, uh-oh, here comes the sales pitch. No. Understand something. There is no sales pitch here. This is a business opportunity. It's like, you want to make money, I want to buy mortgages, we're both equally interested in this. This is a mutual agreement. There's not a sales pitch, because here's what happens. I want to buy the mortgages, you want to make money. All we have to do is get you the materials. That's all we have to do. Because if you have the materials, you've got books, tapes, cassettes, everything else, you can now go home, put the cassette in the player, play it, start to read through the materials. You are now understanding more of this. You can play it in your car. Study all of what's going on. The more you study it, the more you know, the more confident you feel. Now you're going to feel very confident about doing what? Telling people you buy paper. You tell people you buy paper, paper comes in, you start to transact it, you start to make money, you do deal after deal after deal. Now, I had the idea that I needed to give people more information. I wanted to come up with books and tapes because I knew that if you could take this stuff home, if I could just put it into your hand and you can go home with the materials, you may just study it and may make money. Hopefully, if you use the materials. But at least I got it in your hands. So what I did was I came up with the materials a number of years ago, went to a seminar, sold it, made money. Not only did I make money by buying the mortgages, but those people out there were making a lot of good money. So I would go to a city, sell the materials, the people would take the materials home, study them, they'd make money. Every city I went to, I started buying mortgages there. I went to LA, I bought mortgages there. I went to Phoenix, I bought mortgages there. I went to Seattle, I bought mortgages there. Every time I went to a different city, it's working. I'm going from city to city. Now I want you to understand something before we go any further. I'm saying this as a motivational piece, and I'm not very good at motivating, but I'm going to say this again anyway. You came here today to change your life. Do it. Just do it. It's not that hard to do. When you go out there and you tell people you buy paper, you're going to be amazed at how much paper there is out there. It's absolutely incredible. So you're going to say, well, let me wait till the next time you come around. There is no next time. Now's the time. There is no difference. You know why now's a great time? Things are slow. Property's not moving. How do you sell property during a slow period of time? Discounted or? Hold the mortgage, right? If you hold a mortgage, doesn't it make it more attractive than somebody having to go to a bank? That's one. That's number one. Number two is, don't you have a high demand for cash during recessionary periods of time? Yeah, of course you got a lot of people that need cash. In other words, do you think there are Marys out there that are dying to cash out on their mortgage? Of course there are. You just need to find them. You need to let people know you are the person they need to contact. Number three, and more important than anything else, is how much do you think it costs to run this business? Do you think it costs a lot of money to run this business? You basically need a phone and a mailbox and you could be in business. Can you run this from your house? Yes, you can. Of course you can. There's a lot of things that you can do once you understand getting into paper. But let me tell you something else. If you just bought and sold, bought and sold, bought and sold, bought and sold, you'd make a lot of money. Obviously, you'd make a lot of money, right? You buy one, you sell one. You buy one, you sell one. You buy one, you sell one. Or you just find it, sell it, find it, sell it. But what are you going to do with the money? I mean, that becomes a good question. You'll say, well, don't worry about it. I can do something with the money. That's no problem. I know you can do something with the money. So you buy this, and you buy that, and you buy this. Eventually, you're going to come to the point where you say, it just happens to everyone. What am I going to do with this lump sum? Put it back into the business. Obviously, you can expand your business. What else can you do? You can invest it by what? Buying mortgages, buying your own mortgages. The back end of mortgages is an incredible situation. Let me show you this. It's a very, very easy, straightforward deal to understand, but it illustrates the point of what's called the back end. Very important to understand the back end. Let's go through this right now. Here we've got a deal. Developer calls me up from Arizona, all right? Now this developer calls me up. He's got a nice deal here. He's got a $15,500 first trust deed, TD. TD stands for trust deed. What's a trust deed? A trust deed is like a mortgage, but it's a three-party agreement. They use them mostly out west, California, Arizona, places like that. It's basically like a mortgage, like a vendor take-back. $150 a month on a 20-year schedule. He says to me, what would you pay? Now, basically what he's offering me is 20 years of cash flow. He's offering me 20 years times 12 payments per year is 240 payments of $150 a month. He says, what would you pay? Simple cash flow. We go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We finally get to the price that I can pay. I said, I'll give him $9,000. He says, $9,000. We go back and forth, back and forth. This is the best that we can do. Finally, he says, fine, I'll take it. That's the best that I can pay. This is the best that he could get. Great. $9,000. Now, $9,000 is going to buy me 20 years of $150 a month. Fine. The only thing is, I decide I don't know if I want to do this deal myself. Let me find out what somebody else will pay. So I call a friend of mine. His name is Bob. Now, I call Bob. Bob is a paper buyer just like I am. I call Bob up and I say to Bob, now I asked Bob the same question the developer asked me. What would you pay for so many years of cash flow? In this case, 20 years of cash flow. What would you pay for 20 years of $150 a month? Now, when I say that to him, basically, he's looking at the deal, considering whether he's going to buy it, what he's going to buy, how he's going to do it. And here's what he says to me. He says, you know, John, you've got an excellent deal here. You've got 20 years of $150 a month. He says, secured by a property in Arizona. Everything's fine. He says, but let me make you a little bit of a different offer. So I said, all right, go ahead. He says, let me give you $9,000. He says, but for the first 10 years. I love that look on your face right now. That look that says, what? Here's what I mean. So you understand. It's very simple, very straightforward. What happens is this. When you look at this particular situation, you look at this deal, you're looking at, let's start at the top, $9,000. Now, $9,000 is what the developer has to get in order to assign over how many total years of income? 20 years of income, right? Okay, now, he's going to assign over 20 years of income for $9,000. How much money is Bob putting up? $9,000, okay? Bob's putting up 9. He's going to get the first 10 years of income, isn't he, for $9,000. What do I get? The second 10 for how much money? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Do you realize that's no money down? You know why? Because all you're doing is waiting to get paid. Somebody comes by and says, what are you doing? You say, I'm waiting to get paid. That's it. That's all you're doing. You're just waiting to get paid. Do you own the property? No. You own the lien on the property. That's all you own. And you and Bob own the lien on the property. This is what's called a partial assignment of mortgage. Please write that down. A partial assignment of mortgage. Now, what is a partial assignment of mortgage? A partial assignment of mortgage is where you buy part of the cash flow. Not all of the cash flow, part of the cash flow. Now let me answer a couple of questions about this deal, and then we'll go more into partials, okay? The first thing is, on this deal, why is Bob only paying $9,000? The reason why is because he wants to limit his risk of exposure. In other words, if he buys the entire cash flow, he has to pay more money. He's worried that the value of the property may drop enough, because Arizona real estate doesn't hold its value as well as some other areas. He's worried about the value of the property dropping enough so that maybe he would have what's called mortgage over basis. He'd have more money owed against the property than he has value of property. So he would worry what happens when they don't pay if that was the problem. So he wants to buy a small part of this to limit his risk of exposure. The second question you might have is, couldn't you sell the back end? Now, where's the back end? The back end is right here. Could you sell the back end? Yes, you can. But why would you rather hold it? It doesn't cost you anything first, but what else? What happens when the property does go up in value? What basically happens? The person realizes, hey, I could make money if I sell the property. They sell the property, and who gets paid off? You and Bob simultaneously. If you and Bob simultaneously are getting paid off early, what's your rate of return? See, a lot of people say 100%. It can't be. It's got to be an infinite rate of return. Why? Because you have no money in the deal. If you have no money in the deal and the money's coming to you earlier, you're getting paid at an infinite rate of return. In other words, there is no rate of return on money that you don't have in a deal. Now you're saying, oh, now I really don't know what you're talking about. But recognize this. In a partial assignment of mortgage, you are buying part of the asset. In other words, you're splitting the asset up. The cash flow's 20 years, you can buy the first 3 years. First 4 years, first 10 years, first 15 years, whatever it is, you can split it up. How hard is it, or how easy is it to split up a traditional asset is the question. What is a traditional asset? Real estate, boats, cars, those are traditional assets. How easy is it to split up a traditional asset? Tomorrow morning, for example, you're out with the realtor. The realtor says, how would you like to buy this piece of real estate right here? You look at it, you say, that's a nice piece of real estate, but let me make kind of a little bit of a different offer. The realtor says, go ahead. I'm ready. Go ahead. What do you got? Well, I'd like to buy just the 3rd floor. The realtor says, what were you, one of those seminars again? What are you kidding? You can't do that. In other words, it's not easy to split up a traditional asset, but it's very easy to split up a cash flow by a certain amount, because you just pay a certain dollar amount for a certain yield for whatever particular amount you want. One of the things I want you to recognize, about this is this. In terms of doing a deal, in terms of actually producing a deal and pulling all these parameters together, I told you I was going to show you a deal whereby you could use a mortgage that you would see up here that has a term and a maturity and all that. I wanted to show you a deal that looks like that because I want you to pull together all of what you've learned so far. Because you see, I've worked you up to a pitch now. You are so excited, you're beside yourself right now. I can just see that. I can just see that. I can just see that you just can't wait to get started in this. I know that. But here, I'm just kidding. What I'm saying is this. I'm pushing you a little in terms of information by giving you a lot of information because I want you to understand the whole breadth of what we're talking about here. There's a lot here. But this next deal is going to illustrate to you how you could do a deal, very simple, very straightforward, on a deal that may look a lot like a deal you'll encounter. So let me show you this deal right now. And it's very simple, very straightforward, but it really, really makes sense. Really makes sense when you talk about mortgages. Here we go. Contractor sends this deal in. Contractor sends in a $25,000 second mortgage, okay? $275 a month, 15-year schedule. In other words, the money is spread out over a long period of time, 15 years, okay? Money spread out over 15 years. But what we're saying is that the money is due and payable in a shorter period of time, a maturity, or what we call a balloon. Now, what that means is there's basically 2 parts to this mortgage. 2 parts. Part number 1 is 60 payments of $275. Now, why do I say 60 payments of $275? Because there's a 5-year period of time here where you're receiving payments of $275. 5 times 12 is 60 payments of $275. So you've got a period of time here that you're getting $275. You also have the maturity. The maturity is what? That what we call balloon, $20,454.11. That is the remaining principal balance that has to be paid in order to pay off this deal. So basically what we have is what? We've got 2 parts to this mortgage, and we got a guy that wants to sell it. Now, the guy wants to sell it to me. He says, what would you pay for this deal? We go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I arrive at the best possible price I can, $15,000. That's the best I could pay for this deal, to buy part 1 and part 2. I tell him $15,000. He says to me, is that the best you could do? We go back and forth, back and forth. I said, that's the best I can do. Now, at the time, I had some of the money, but I didn't have all of the money. Okay? How can I do this deal? I just have part of the money. What could I do? Well, sell what? Get somebody else involved. I'll sell part of it, right? Now, I can sell part of it. This is just what we talked about before, a partial assignment of mortgage. I can sell part of this deal. Now, if I can sell part of this deal, and I can make this work, how am I going to do this? Well, I'd rather sell part 1 rather than part 2. Why? Because the money's coming to you faster. The faster money comes to you, the more it's worth. So I'd rather sell part 1 and retain part 2. How do I do that? Well, I contact my investors. These are all my investors here. And I contact them and I ask them the same exact question. What would you pay for 60 payments of $275? What would you pay? What would you pay? What would you pay? What would you pay? And I finally come to Walt over there. And I say, Walt, what would you pay for 60 payments of $275? Now, Walt gives me the best answer of all of my investors that I've asked. Walt says that for 60 payments of $275, he will pay $12,000. Now, $12,000 will buy Walt 60 payments of $275. And Walt is going to enjoy the return on that investment. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of multiplying 60 times 275 and dividing by 5. That gives you about a 7% return. That's not what Walt is going to get on his money. Walt is going to get just under 14% return on his money. He's happy with that. He's got his money sitting in a bank account at 7%. 14% is twice what he's going to get. That's a good return on his investment. So he's excited about it. Now, he's going to put in $12,000, buys him 60 payments of $275. He's going to put that money in. Now, if we have to come up with $15,000, how much do I have to kick in? 3. So I have to kick in my $3,000, combine it with Walt's 12, that gives us $15,000. We now buy the deal from the contractor. Walt's got the front part, he's got the cash flow. I've got what? The balloon of the maturity. Okay, so what my cash flow looks like is this. My cash flow looks like this. You take $3,000 out of your pocket. I do. I put it into this deal. I wait 5 years with absolutely no money coming to me whatsoever. Why is no money coming to me? Because the cash flow is going to Walt. He's getting the $275 for 60 payments. But at the end of that period of time, his payments are done. What do I get? I get the balloon of the maturity, which is $20,454.11. My rate of return is 39%. Is that a nice rate of return? I mean, think about that. 39% return, and all you're doing is waiting to get paid one lump sum. That's a nice rate of return. But some of you out there are saying, well, that's good, but what happens if you don't have the $3,000? Okay, now you could sell the other part, but if you sell the other part outright, you wouldn't retain part of the deal. How can you, now listen to this, how can you do this deal with no money and retain part of the action at the same time? Sell part of the balloon. Getting a partner and sell part of the balloon. Now, how do you do this? It's very, very simple. And if I could show you how to do this, would you smile? Please? I just want to get a nod of yeah. Way to go. Okay, now here we go. Ready? Here we go. Because it's pretty simple. It's not done with smoke and mirrors. It's not done by magic. What it is just the simple numbers. Here we go. Ernie. Now, who's Ernie? Ernie's your cousin, your mother, your grandfather, your golf partner. I don't care who it is. It's somebody with $3,000. And if you don't know somebody with $3,000, get some new friends. All right? You're hanging around with a poor bunch. No, what I'm saying is basically somebody, not $3 million, just talking about $3,000. That's all. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to create a simple one-page partnership. It's just going to spell out the terms and conditions of what you're doing. What are you doing? You're basically going to give Ernie some return on his investment. So Ernie says, so what are we going to do? Are we buying real estate? No, we're not buying real estate. We're buying the lien on the real estate. Oh, really? How do we do that? I'll explain how we do this, but you explain what you're doing. Basically, what you're doing, Ernie, is you're getting a return on investment for the $3,000 you put in, like a zero-coupon bond, except it pays higher, the security is better, and I'm giving you a great return. He says, what's the return that you think is so great? Now, you don't have to give this high an amount. I'm just saying this will attract an investor. Ernie, I'm going to give you 22% on your money. Now, 22% is pretty high. Again, you don't have to do it that way. I'm just saying it'll attract an investor. 22%. He says, wait a minute. I put in 3. I get 22% of my money. I wait 5 years with no money. How much money do I get paid at the end of that term? Ernie, are you kidding? I'm going to triple your money. I'll give you $9,000 back. If you like this, would you notify your face? Please. Here's what I'm saying, but some of you are looking at me going, I just told this guy I can't come up with $3,000. Where am I going to get the 9? Well, the balloon bursts. It pays how much? $20,454.11, of which you're going to hand Ernie 9. That means $11,454.11 is what? Yours. Totally, 100% yours. Everybody's happy. Do you realize in this particular deal, everybody's happy? Why? You start at the top, $15,000. The contractor got his $15,000. He's out of the deal. Great. Now, Walt comes in. He's going to get a return on his investment, double what he's getting at a bank or wherever, but he's enjoying it. He's got 60 payments of $275. He puts in 12. I put in 3. If I put in 3 on this side over here, if I put in 3, I get 39% return on my money, and my $3,000 grows to $20,000. That's nice. That's real good. But that gives me a 39% return. On the other side of this, how about I put in no money, I bring Ernie in, I give him a piece of the action, 22%, I give him 9 and still retain 11. Ooh. You know what's nice about that? I put no money in and made an infinite rate of return. So you should feel real good that you don't have the money. So tonight you're going to go home and you're going to say to your spouse, you know, honey, a guy at a seminar this morning told us we should be happy we're poor. But just understand, I'm not talking about Ernie coming up with $3 million. I'm talking about $3,000. Now, the one important point that we have to clear up before we finish this discussion this morning is this. What happens when they don't pay? If you're looking at this deal again, now, let's consider this deal all over again. Let's say that in this particular deal, we've got 2 people involved. We've got Mary, this is Mary, and this is Bill. Okay, just for illustration purposes, this is Mary, this is Bill, in this example. And I'm you. I'm you tomorrow morning, and I'm doing this, okay? Mary calls you up. I'm you, you're David. Mary calls me up, and she says, I've got a deal here. Year ago, Bill bought the house, blah, 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 he's making payments. Okay. So I say, all right, have all 12 payments been made? She says, yes, all 3 have been made. 3? I thought you said the property sold a year ago. Yeah, it sold a year ago, but he's only made 3 payments, and then he hasn't made a payment in 9 months. Ooh, 9 months. What does that mean the mortgage is? Delinquent. The mortgage is delinquent. He's behind on his payments. Now, the question I have for you right now is, we obviously understand that if he's not paying, we can get the house back. She could get the house back because she owns the mortgage, he owns the house. He's not paying, she could get the house back. Now, why is she not doing that? I don't know. But she's calling me up and wants to sell the mortgage to me. I'm you. Here's the question I have for you. Could you make money by buying that delinquent mortgage? Now, think about this. Now, let's talk about this. Think about this. When I go to offer her an amount of money for that mortgage, now, not the house. He still owns the house, even though he's not paying. I'm offering her money for that mortgage. Would I offer her $50,000? Because that's what I was offering her if he made all 12 payments. No. What would I offer her now? Something less. What would I offer her? 30? I don't know. But now, wait a minute. Now, a lot of people say, now you're really taking advantage of her. Please, please. Who has the problem here, me or her? Doesn't she have the problem? I mean, he's not paying her. He's not paying me. He's not paying her. She has a problem. And if I buy this mortgage from her, wouldn't I be buying her problem? Yes. Okay, so understand that. Now, I'm going to buy her problem, so I say $30,000. She says, okay, fine, I'll take it. Let's say she says she'll take it. She takes that money. What does that mean? I hand her the 30. She's out of the picture. Now, what do? I now go to him. Now, I don't have to foreclose right away. That's what I want you to recognize. I come over, I knock on his door. Hi, Bill, how you doing? He says, great, what's happening? I said, well, you know how you weren't making payments to Mary? He says, yeah. You're not making payments to me now. You understand what I'm saying? So he says to me, okay, what can we do? Well, I'd like to introduce you to my attorney. This is Fred. Fred, this is the attorney. Can you please speak to him about what's going to happen when he doesn't pay on his mortgage? I'll be waiting outside in the car. Now, he could either say one of two things. Now, this is real live stuff. He could say one of two things. Wait, excuse me. Can he say, can we work something out? Could we work something out? Do I have to foreclose against him? No. What can I do? What could I say to him? You want to sell the house? He says, yeah. I said, all right, what, 6 months? Is that good? Can I give him 6 months to sell the house? Without payments. Can I do that? I own the mortgage. Of course I can do that. Now he sells the house, I get paid off. Could I do that? All right, what else can I do? Could I lower his payments and rewrite the mortgage? Sure I can. Could I say that I'll extend his maturity back or do whatever we want to do? We could do all sorts of things, right? But let's say he doesn't want to do anything. Let's say he says, I'm not going to do anything. I don't care what you do. I really don't care. What can I do? I foreclose. Now what happens? Power of sale, I get the property back. Now, I get the property back. What am I going to do with the property? Sell it. I'm going to just sell the property outright. What happens when I sell the property? I make money. Now, let me ask you this. If I took that property back, not too long ago, how much did it sell for? $130. How much could I sell that property for now? 100? Well, but I want to sell it fast, right? Could I sell it for 80? Okay, I sell it for 80. I paid 30. What do I make? $50,000. Whew. Isn't that great? Whoa, hey, no smoke and mirrors. Real easy to do. But wait a second. A lot of you are going to say, wow, that's great. What a technique. Oh, my God, fantastic. The only problem is I don't have the 30. See, now you're going ahead and worrying about the money again. Now, what would you do? Don't you dare call my company. No, let me tell you why. There's no reason to call us. You don't have to call us. We have our own delinquent deals we're dealing with. Why would we need to get them from you? So the point is, you're going to have delinquent mortgages up here. There's no reason to call us. The reason why is you want to do it yourself. You say, but I don't have any money. How can I do it? You go worrying about money again. See this guy here? My brother. My brother. He follows me all around to seminars. Doesn't matter where I go. He comes with me, right? Now, this guy loves a good deal. He just loves a good deal. That's what he wants. He could be, he's not my brother, he could be your cousin. He could be your golf pro. He could be anybody that wants a good return on investment. And he says to me, anytime you got a good deal, can you bring me in on a good deal? And I say, sure I can. Now what happens? I got a good deal here. I'm going to make a good profit. Do you think you want to come in? He says, how much is it? $30,000. All right. He gives me $30,000. Now he's not just going to hand it to me. We're going to create a partnership, a one-page partnership. You know what it's going to say? We're going to put $30,000 in, and the first $30,000 that comes out of this investment goes right back to you. And then we split the profits 50-50. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do any legwork, anything. I'll do everything. He says, okay, fine. How long is it going to take? No longer than a year. All right? Great. Now what do? He hands me the money. We create a partnership. The partnership takes the $30,000 and buys the deal from Mary, right? Now the partnership owns the deal. The partnership goes to Bill. You need to pay us, not me, us. We own the deal. Now what happens when he says, I don't have any money? I can't do anything, or I don't want to pay you. Now what do? The partnership takes back the property, right? Now the partnership is going to sell the property, and you told me I could probably get 80, so we sell it for 80. Now what? Now I give him 30, because I told him I'd give him the first 30. He gets the first 30. Now I got $50,000 left. How much does he get? 25. What do I get? 25. Now let's review what happened. Just in case you weren't paying attention. Here's what happened. He puts up 30, and in about 6 months or so it takes to foreclose, whatever. Let's say it's 6 months. He gets how much? He puts up 30, he gets his 30 back, he gets 25. It's almost 100% return on his money, right? It's a 6-month period of time. Is he excited? Of course he is. Now, what did I get? Talk about excitement. I put in no money, and I made $25,000. Sign me up. Think about this. Look at this. Now, I've got a workbook that I put together. Now, this workbook, very simple, very straightforward workbook. It's called Delinquent Paper Equals Dynamic Profit. The reason why I put this workbook together is I was trying to teach myself about how to do this whenever I encountered a delinquent deal. I wrote this with an attorney to teach myself how to put these deals together because, you see, it's not that these deals are bad. It's just that these deals need to be put together properly. So in other words, when you do this, you got to recognize what it is that you're doing. What you're doing, basically, is you are converting your efforts into cash. Now, here's what I'm saying to you so you recognize what happens. You take some cash that you made, you put it into reinvestment. You buy a mortgage. Let's say the mortgage goes bad, or you buy a delinquent mortgage. What does that mean you'll do? Take back the property. Now, what do you want to do with the property? Sell it. Now you get cash. What do you do with your cash? Reinvest it. You see how this works? Now, a lot of you are saying, yeah, but if I take back the property, couldn't I rent out the property? Yeah, you could if you've been sitting under a sun lamp too long. Why would you not want to rent out property? And please, I know there are other speakers that speak on property and renting and everything else. I'm not trying to be negative about property. I'm trying to be negative about wasting your time renting property. Anyone in this room own rental real estate? Is it easy to manage? Do they send you the check early? Does a toilet ever go? Can you imagine sitting there watching a game, the toilet goes? Not your toilet, their toilet. Now you got to go over there and fix the toilet. Toilets and tenants are the two reasons why paper stands head and shoulders above every other investment. Now, folks, I want you to understand what I'm giving you the choice of. This is second day. Tomorrow's reality. You're going out there to do this. I am saving you. I don't know if you knew that. I'm saving you from toilets and tenants. Because what I'm saving you from is, here, you don't own the property. What do you own? The lien on the property. Do you realize what it's like to try and become wealthy by renting out property? You have any idea the toil and sweat involved in renting out property? A friend of mine one time said to me, John, when you take in all these mortgages, see, because a payment comes from here, a payment comes from here, all these different mortgages give you monthly payments. These monthly payments come in, they add up. Now, when they're adding up, I mean, they're seriously adding up after a period of time. You got a lot of money here. My friend said to me once, he said, John, at the end of a month, how much money do you get to keep? I said, what do you mean, how much money do I get to keep? He says, well, you know, after you pay the maintenance, the taxes, the insurance, He says, wait a minute, you don't pay that, do you? I said, no, I don't own the property, so why would I pay that? So in other words, if I get $300 here, $200 here, $500 here, $900 here, and it adds up to $10,000 a month, guess what I get to cash? $10,000. Now, those of you that are saying, yeah, but let's go the rental way. Think about this. If you wanted to make $10,000 a month for the rest of your life, let's just say, and you want to do it through rental property, and each property you had, let's just say you could do this, each property you had could produce $100 a month. How many houses would you need? 100. Do you have any idea what it's like to own 100 homes? Do you have any idea what that's like? Let me give you a graphic depiction of what that's like. That's like having 100 little children around you at all times under the age of 2. Because that's what these tenants are like. I don't know why these people do this to us, but tenants are there to kill us. Now, I'm just telling you, when the toilet breaks, and I own the mortgage on a rental piece of real estate, okay? It's a rental piece of real estate. And the toilet breaks. And somebody, for example, for some reason calls me and says, excuse me, my toilet's broken. I'll say, listen, call this number, Rhoda Ruda. Don't call me. You know why? I'm not the plumber. I don't own the property. Why should you be calling me? What do I own? The lien on the real estate. Now, please understand what I'm trying to say. It's not so much that you should not get involved in property. It's the best thing to do with a piece of real estate when you get it back is sell it. Sell it right away. Now that you sell it, what do you get? You get your money. Now that you got cash, what can you do? Reinvest it. What are you going to reinvest it in? More paper. Come on. It's the best investment we can get. I am telling you that this program is foolproof. The reason why it's foolproof is because you've got cash, you've got reinvestment vehicle, and you've got property coming in if you choose to do delinquent paper. Now you've got all of that working for you at once. That's a lot of power. Now you're going to say, but John, all these payments are going to be coming in, and I'm going to spend that money. I'll have nothing left. This is the last thing I want you to remember about how to make this program work for yourself. It's very simple. Every payment that comes in, every check that's going to be coming into you from these mortgage payments has a certain amount that's going to be principal and a certain amount that's going to be interest. Okay? Certain amount interest, certain amount principal. Here's what you do. It's very powerful and it's very simple. You spend the interest, reinvest the principal. That's all you have to do. You will not have a financial problem for the rest of your life if you spend the interest, reinvest the principal. Very simple. Why? Because now you have spendable money in terms of interest. You have investment money in terms of principal. You can't miss. you've got them both covered. So you've got money constantly compounding in the principal, and you have investment money that's constantly going out in terms of interest. You've got an entire program that gives you reinvestment money and spendable money for the rest of your life. You can't possibly miss. Folks, I want to tell you something. We've had a lot of fun in this period of time that we've been together here. I hope we have. At least I did. This is fun. Now, the reason why I love to speak on the second day is because you've already been through a first day. A lot of you have been here yesterday. You heard some things. You've gotten a chance to say, yeah, you know, I can consider some things about what's happening here. Now you're ready for me. Now, I don't say that in a bad, no. I don't mean that in a bravura sense. I mean that in a sense of you are now ready to understand what paper means in terms of any other investment. There is no challenge. This is a one-man race. The only reason why is because paper is there to do whatever it is you want it to do. You can get cash, you can get the reinvestment, you can get the property. Any way you want to work it, just so long as you pick your direction. Can you work all three? Of course you can. But the one thing you need, the difference between today and tomorrow morning, you making money, is the difference of having us work with you, having the ability to put the whole program together. The reason why I'm here, giving up a Saturday morning, being up here, is because I want you to understand there is an opportunity for you to make money. I'd like for you to capitalize on that opportunity. I would like for you to take advantage today. Don't procrastinate anymore. Today's the day to change this and make this work. There's a lot of paper out there just waiting for you to get in contact with them so they know who you are. It's time to get started now. So what I'd like to do is go through these materials I have available for you today and make sure that they get in your hands. I want you to take them. I want you to use them. I want you to go home tonight, open them up, and start to study them and change your life. That's what I'd like for you to do. So let's go through this right now, because I've got a 2-volume home study course called Profits Through Paper and Paper Dynamics, and how you can get started in this and how you can make money being able to put this all together and be able to make this program work. Let's talk about the first volume. The first volume is called Profits Through Paper. Now, this is 8 one-hour cassettes in a workbook that detail step by step by step exactly how to get into paper. Now, what do I mean by getting into paper? How to find the paper, how to fund the paper, how to do all the legal documentation, how to understand the time value of money. See, a lot of you right now are saying, you know, do you need an advanced financial degree? It sounds pretty complicated. I didn't understand what you were saying during this talk. That's fine. What these materials are supposed to do is cover that for you step by step. In other words, the cassettes enhance the information that's in this workbook. So if I'm not going to understand my point of view, if I can't get you to understand this, you're not going to do it. If you don't do it, I don't buy any paper, you don't make any money. There's no sense in this. I've got to be able to get you to do this. So in other words, this goes through it step by step by step so that you can understand how to make this work. And this is the volume that you're going to start with tomorrow morning, Profits Through Paper. This is the volume that gets you off and running in making cash. There are 6 techniques in here on how to buy property using mortgage techniques, which means you get in at a discount. This allows you to make a tremendous amount of money when you understand exactly how to put this whole thing together. So this is the second volume, Paper Dynamics. Now, I also have a delinquent paper workbook. This workbook, as I said, was intended to teach me, when I was doing delinquent paper, exactly how to make delinquent paper work. That's what this was supposed to do for me, because I got together with an attorney, we wrote this together, and we did some delinquent deals. What this is supposed to do for you is the exact same thing. How to work a delinquent paper deal, how to find the delinquent deal, what to do with it. This delinquent paper workbook is an advanced stage of paper. You'd want to go through those materials first before you get to delinquent paper. So this delinquent paper will take you off and running to getting back property if that's what you choose to do. So totally what we have here is 3 volumes with 16 one-hour cassettes. There's a lot of information, but there's a lot of information you need to know. I've also got what's called a hotline service. Now, you need to pay attention to what this is. This is very, very important for your success. Each one of you that are purchasing are going to be filling out one of these forms, all right? Now, I want you to fill out this form during this break, because we're going to do this right now. During this break, you're going to do this step by step, but you're going to fill this out nice and slowly so that I get your full address. The reason why is this entitles you to the hotline service. I am going to take 1 copy of this with me, all right? This puts you on our computer system. I'm going to do this during this break because after that I'm heading out to the airport and I'm flying out. This is it. I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope we had a good time, but I want to take a copy of this with me from you. One other thing that I like to do, and I don't have to do this, but I like to do this because it makes sense. This is something that you will see that's very powerful. I've been telling you over and over again, do not worry about money in the paper business. I've mentioned this 5 times during my talk here. Don't worry about money. This is me sort of backing that statement up, putting my money where my mouth is, because I want you to understand what I mean by that. I don't want you to worry about money, so here's what I'm going to do. Each and every one of you that purchase right now will be getting one of these, which is called a rebate. All right, it's a tuition reimbursement. It's money back to you for just using the program. That's all it is, money back to you just for using the program. Here's what it is. Here we go. Now let me read through this with you so you follow along as to what this is. I, and then you print your name in there, have purchased the program Profits Through Paper and Paper Dynamics from John Stefanchik, Hint. That's where you purchased it today. This coupon is good for $200 cash to be refunded to me upon successful closing of an assignment or mortgage. This coupon is non-transferable and is to be redeemed on day of closing. What does that mean? Go out there, use the program, study it, now you start to do deals. On your first deal, you cash in this certificate, and besides the money you're going to be making, it gives you $200 cash back. What it is like a tuition reimbursement. It's money back to you just for using the course. Pricing on these materials, so we go through this so you understand what this is. 2-volume home study course is $695. Delinquent paper workbooks, $100. Hotline services, $200. That's a total of $995. Now, what I want you to understand about $995 is it's a very fair price, because on your first deal you should be making back $1,000 on your first deal anyway. So, in other words, $995, you should be making that back on your first deal, plus the $200 back. But what I want you to recognize is this. I want each and every one of you, I don't want you to worry about the money. I want each and every one of you to get involved now. What I'm asking you to do is purchase it now. Now, if you purchase it now, you pay, you know, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover, check, whatever you do, when you pay for it now, you're paying money now with the ability to want to make money when? Later. So now, if you're paying money now with the intention of making money later, what's the one thing I should offer you? A discount, obviously, because we talked about the time value of money. All it is time value of money. Now, understand, if you'd like to purchase it another time, great, no problem. Tomorrow, next week, contact the International Success Group, and they will gladly sell it to you for $995. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're willing to purchase now, money now versus money later, what I'd like to do is throw in the delinquent paper workbook for free, sign you up on the hotline service for free, which means that I can mark this price down to a total of $695. What that means is you pay $695. You pay that today. You get the books, the tapes, the hotline service, everything is all yours. You also get the rebate, which means that you get $200 cash back just for using the program, which means that you're only at risk $495. Sound good? Wait. I want you to understand something. Just last but not least, I just want you to understand something. I want as many of you involved in this as possible. Again, I don't want money to be a problem. I just want to ask you one final question before we finish, and I'll take any questions you have in the back. Let me ask you this. How many of you right now would love to get involved in paper, by a show of hands, would love to get involved in paper, would love to do this, but maybe aren't in a position to pay $695? Let me see a show on you. See, quite a few of you. Let me see those hands again just one more time. There's more hands now. This is kind of interesting. Could I just ask you, if you're serious about this, because I want to see who I'm doing business with, can you stand up? I'm serious. Stand up. There's a reason why I'm asking you to stand. Stand up. Now, if you're not interested, fine, that's okay. But if you're interested, please stand. Let me tell you why. I want to do something special right now. During this break, for those of you standing, I want to do this. I'm going to do two things, so please pay attention to this. I'm going to do two things for those of you standing right now. We will do two things. Number one, I will not do $695 for everything. I will do $595 for everything that I just talked about, but I'll do one additional thing. If you're willing to commit to me, I'm willing to commit to you. When you follow me to the back, make sure you have a pen handy, okay? When you get your rebate certificate that I'll give you in the back, you cross out the $200 that's there, and in your own pen, you write in $600. Allow me to initial the certificate. That's all I need to do is initial the change. What am I basically saying to you? You pay $595 now, I'll give you $600 cash back on your first deal. How much did the cost you? Folks, all you have to do is use it. Thank you very much. You've been a nice audience. I'll see you all in the back. Thanks a lot. Welcome back. I hope you really enjoyed that seminar presentation as much as I enjoyed giving it. You know, after the years I've traveled around the country and met so many people that wanted to make money and have helped so many people make money, I've realized I've really enjoyed those seminar presentations. I had a lot of fun with them. The people got a lot out of it. But more importantly, there were many, many businesses that were built out of those seminars. People that sat there, maybe just like you, and didn't know anything about this and said, wow, I think I can do that. Got the materials, got started, and really started to build a business. And that's what this is all about, is building a business. But lots of things have changed since that seminar. Changed for the better, I think, for you. Some things have changed, I think, that will enhance your ability to do this. So let me go through some of those changes right now. First of all, the course that I was referring to, that I was demonstrating up there, is a course that I was very proud of and worked with for many, many years. But I've changed that course. I've updated that course. And what I've done is I've made that course a lot simpler and easier for you to use. The course is now called The 7 Steps to Paper Wealth. There are only 7 steps, 7 reproducible steps that I can go through with you as to how to do a paper deal. A lot of what I went through on that video absolutely applies to you. It all applies to exactly what you want to do. But what I've done is taken that and given it the exact number of steps you need to do so that you can reproduce it again and again and again. Now, the 7 Steps to Paper Wealth is 16 audio cassettes that I've recorded with jam-packed with information exactly what to do and how to do it. Also, it's got the workbooks that follow along that work independently as well for you to understand the documents and the calculations and everything, step by step. So when you start with the course, Volume 1 goes through steps 1, 2, and 3, and Volume 2 goes through steps 4, 5, 6, and 7. You will have in front of you exactly what you need so you can understand how to put this all together. Now, I've been getting raves from my students about this because people that even had that course that you saw on the video have purchased this course because they said this makes it even easier and more understandable. And there's a lot you need to know about this. I'm not trying to scare you with the fact that there's a lot of information, but there is some things that you do need to know so that you can do this very effectively and make a lot of money with this, which is the most important thing. Now, I've also produced some other things that are updates to that as well. As a matter of fact, I've got a computer program which takes you through everything, step by step. And as a matter of fact, the computer program is a Windows-based program that follows along exactly with the 7 Steps to Paper Wealth. It'll take you through the 7 steps with a computer. Now, if you don't have a computer and you can't, work a computer and you don't want to get it, that's okay. It's optional. But what it'll do is it'll take all the scare out of everything in terms of calculations, numbers, documentation, everything. It does it. It does it for you, and it does it in a snap. It really does what the computers are supposed to do and help us enhance what we want to do through business. So if you'd like to get that, I have that available as well. It's something that'll really enhance your ability to make this work. Last but not least, I've got something that was born out of my students saying to me, we need more guidance, we need more help. Now let me give you a little bit of a perspective on what this is. It's a personal coaching, mentoring system. It's a system that's sort of devised around you wanting to do more with this paper program, wanting to learn more, and wanting to have someone work with you. As a matter of fact, if you'll think about it like a personal trainer, any one of you watching this video knows you can go down and join a gym and work out and become very physically fit. But a lot of you like to hire a personal trainer. People hire personal trainers to help them. That personal trainer doesn't lift the weights for them. The personal trainer doesn't do the running for them or the dieting for them. What the personal trainer does is facilitate you in doing it. So you get the benefits of it. You become physically fit. Well, why not hire a personal trainer for your business to make your business physically fit, so to speak, financially fit, fiscally fit? In other words, why not work with me and my office? And I did say me. You will be working with me and my office. And you will be plugging into a system that will allow you to have personal guidance so that you will understand exactly what you're doing and you won't fall off the track. Someone to help you. Someone to say, come on, let's go. Someone for motivation. Someone for inspiration, but someone for answers to those critical questions about how to do the deals, what to do, all of that. I've realized this is a very important part of making the whole system work. So I'm giving you a chance to plug into that if you'd like as well. You know, when I first started 14 years ago, I never thought there was this much to it. I thought it was fairly simple, but there is a lot to it. Not to scare you, but to make sure you're aware of the fact that with a lot to do, with a lot to accomplish, with a lot of money to make, I'm talking millions, Why not understand as much as you can as soon as you can? And having someone to work with you over 1 year, it's a whole 1-year program. That's not to say it'll take you a year to make money. It's to say if you want to make money very soon, you need to jump on this right now. If you'd like to make money over a longer period of time, stay with the program, work with it. We have monthly conference calls. We have meetings around the country. We have a website that you can go to with a password so you can get through and understand some things that I'm posting on an almost daily basis. I mean, there's so much information that I'm trying to get out to you to help you do it. And you're going to say, why? Why are you doing all that? Because I get something out of it as well. Remember, when you find those deals and you call my office is going to benefit by buying those deals. You're going to benefit by selling us or facilitating us in buying those deals and making that cash differential as I went through on the tape. So there's a lot that we can do. As a matter of fact, what I'm very proud of is the fact that over the years, so many of my students have built businesses out of this. So many of my students have become competitors of mine. That's a true compliment of the fact that this system works. So many people are making so much money, it's time for you to do the same. So what I'd like for you to do is call the 800 number that's on your screen. Pick up the phone, dial the number now. Don't procrastinate. Say, I'd like to do this now. Pick up the phone, dial the number and say, yes, give me some information about that. Talk to one of my representatives at my office. Let them explain to you what all of this means, what the computer program is about, what the 7 steps does, how it works, how you can make money back for buying the course on your first deal and what's called a rebate. Get involved in my personal training and mentoring system where you can work with me in my office one-on-one. Do all this, plug in as much as you want, but definitely plug in. The system's there for you to utilize. The system's there for you to take advantage of. Call the number that's on your screen, get some information, get started now, and I'll see you on the road to success.
I enjoyed the course. I've gone through the course twice. It was fairly easy for me to follow. Things clicked fairly easy. It's broken up into very concise steps that I could digest before moving on to the next. I liked it. The potential for this business for me is huge. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I am looking to never have to work for anybody again.
Had I known that the type of profitability was in these notes, I would have gotten into it a long time ago.
I've done literally thousands of transactions. There was one transaction that I bought on an apartment building and sold, and I made about $20,000 to $25,000 on it. It's a great business to be in. It allows you a lot of freedom, allows you to travel, and allowed me to achieve goals that I normally would not have been able to, such as becoming a private pilot and allowing myself to fly to different places down in the Bahamas.
I explained to her that I was going to buy notes where people had monthly income from their note they're holding, and our company that I'm affiliated with would buy that note. She said, gee, that's really something needed here. She said, I had a deal in here a week or 10 days ago, and that's just what the people needed. They needed to sell a note, but they didn't know where to take it. So here I am.
I have, again, no formal education, and for someone to make 6 figures in today's market without a formal education, I think that's great, and I owe it all to paper. And I can't tell you that I owe it to winning the lottery, because chances of that happening are slim to none.
Everything we really needed was in your program, and then with the help we get ongoing from Success, it's all pretty much there.
It gives you that peace of mind every month to know, well, that's coming in, and now I can spend my time going and finding more.
It just makes you smile all day long, and you have a good night's sleep, and you know that you help somebody else in this world.